Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is sitting on the edge of a major break to the downside, running into the final area of support, and this is happening ahead of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of selling pressure due to the spot Bitcoin ETFs, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And on top of that, Ethereum is still playing out this bearish pattern on the daily time frame, which I'll talk about later in the video, so make sure to watch to the end. First of all, we need to talk about the spot Bitcoin ETFs because, of course, the US stock market opens again today, which means the spot Bitcoin ETFs begin trading again today. And if you've been watching any of my last few videos here on the channel, you would know that I am expecting a dump today in the crypto market, and already we're starting to see that dump exactly as expected, and I continue to expect more selling pressure throughout this week. And that is despite the fact that BlackRock is continuing to accumulate a lot of new Bitcoin, because as of right now, BlackRock is now holding over 33,430 Bitcoin, worth well over 1.3 billion US dollars for their spot Bitcoin ETF. And you can actually see this on BlackRock's own website. Once again, they're holding well over 33,000 Bitcoin, worth well over 1.3 billion US dollars in their spot Bitcoin ETF. And so basically, with every trading day, with every day that the stock market is open, this number is going up. BlackRock is continuing to buy more and more Bitcoin, but at this stage, the amount that BlackRock is buying is simply not as much as the amount that Grayscale is dumping. Because once again, I've been talking about this basically every day since the Bitcoin ETFs got approved over a week ago, and basically saying that we should be expecting a lot of selling pressure due to Grayscale specifically, because when the spot Bitcoin ETFs actually got approved, Grayscale was holding well over 600,000 Bitcoin, whereas right now they're holding roughly 570,000 Bitcoin, still worth well over 23 billion US dollars. And so obviously at this stage, Grayscale is holding a lot more Bitcoin compared to BlackRock. And BlackRock is a player that is accumulating a lot of Bitcoin right now, whereas Grayscale is a player in the market that is dumping a lot of Bitcoin. Because this Bitcoin that Grayscale has been holding, they've been holding that for years now, well before the spot Bitcoin ETFs actually got approved, and they've been charging very high fees on that Bitcoin that's just been sitting there on behalf of investors and clients. Because all of this Bitcoin isn't actually Grayscale's Bitcoin, it's basically people's Bitcoin that just have their Bitcoin sitting with Grayscale, and Grayscale's basically looking after it and charging a fee on that Bitcoin. And that fee that Grayscale's charging on all of that Bitcoin right there is way too high compared to other fees for other spot Bitcoin ETFs, because Grayscale's charging around 1.5%, whereas, for example, the BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF is charging only 0.25%. And so when you're talking about tens of billions of dollars, obviously that difference between 1.5% and 0.25% is a massive difference in fees. And so due to that, obviously, a lot of people are wanting to leave Grayscale, exit the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and they weren't really able to do that at the net asset value before the spot Bitcoin ETFs actually got approved, because before the ETFs were approved, they could only sell their GBTC at a discount, so basically selling it below net asset value. But instead, a lot of people were just waiting for the spot Bitcoin ETFs to actually get approved, and now that they're approved, they're able to exit Grayscale at net asset value. But because the Grayscale Bitcoin ETF is a cash create ETF, Grayscale cannot pay out this Bitcoin in Bitcoin. They have to pay out in US dollars, which means they have to dump Bitcoin and pay out in US dollars if people are wanting to leave Grayscale. And because there's billions of dollars that want to leave Grayscale, that means billions of dollars worth of selling pressure, a lot of Bitcoin being dumped on the market. And once again, I've been saying this basically every single day over the last 1 week or so, ever since the spot Bitcoin ETFs have been approved. And ever since then, obviously, we have seen a dump in the short term in the price of Bitcoin, exactly as expected. And I do continue to expect this moving forward, at least over the coming days, possibly over the next few weeks. But obviously, eventually they'll run out of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin that's wanting to exit Grayscale will have exited Grayscale at some point in the future. And so once again, at that point in the future, we could see less selling pressure due to Grayscale, whereas we could still see that constant buying pressure due to other players like BlackRock. And so as I've also been saying over the last 1 week, even though I expect short-term selling pressure due to Grayscale and a short-term bearish price action for Bitcoin, over the much longer term, as in multiple months from now or years from now, the spot Bitcoin ETFs are actually extremely bullish for Bitcoin, but that's talking about the much longer term, not in the next few weeks. And I am recording this video just before the US stock market actually opens today on Monday, and so I don't know the exact amount that's going to exit Grayscale today on the US stock market, but as always, I'll keep you up to date in real time over on my Twitter. So if you want these extra real time updates throughout the day, make sure to follow me over on my Twitter to stay up to date. And I will leave a link to my Twitter right here in the description down below and in the pinned comment. But anyway, getting into the Bitcoin charts today, looking at the daily Bitcoin chart, and right now the bearish divergence is still playing out as expected, because once again, as I've been saying basically every day over the last 1.5 weeks or so, since all the way back up here, I've been saying I would not be expecting any significant bullish momentum in the short term, and instead it's very likely that we're going to see either some choppy sideways price action or a pullback in the price of Bitcoin as the most likely scenarios here on the daily time frame. And so with this bearish divergence still active on the daily chart, obviously I continue to expect that type of price action moving forward. And staying on the daily time frame, looking at the DXY, also known as the US dollar index, obviously this bounce is continuing to the upside and has continued over the last couple of weeks. And so as I've been saying almost every day over the last couple of weeks, this is a warning signal for Bitcoin and crypto, basically warning us that we're probably going to see a little bit more short-term bearish price action here. Because once again, if you're looking at this chart right here, we can clearly see that when the DXY is bullish, that is almost always bearish for Bitcoin and crypto. And on top of the DXY being bullish, which is a warning signal for Bitcoin and crypto, and on top of the bearish divergence playing out for Bitcoin, if we're staying on the daily time frame, right now the Bitcoin price is extremely close to breaking this critical line of support, which is sitting at around 40.3k approximately. And so obviously, if we simply break that line of support right there with daily candle closes below that line of support, that would be a fairly strong signal pointing towards a trend reversal on the daily time frame from this bullish trend into a new bearish trend just on the daily time frame. But as always, it is important to understand the difference between the different timeframes. So even if we're in a bearish trend on the daily time frame, like what we saw just here or just here, for example, if you're zooming out to a much larger time frame like the weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously these short-term bearish trends can still occur within the much larger bullish trend, which you can view on the larger time frames like the weekly chart. And so essentially, if we break that line of support right there, once again, we could enter into a bit more of a short-term bearish trend, which could last over the next few weeks, maybe even over the next 1 month or so, but even that can still occur within the much larger bullish trend, as you can see here, that's been going on for well over a year. And so that's why it's important to understand the difference between the different timeframes, because obviously we could be bearish on one time frame and bullish on another time frame without contradicting the two timeframes. But as I've also been saying recently on the channel, with the RSI in a downtrend on the daily time frame while the price is struggling in the bullish trend, this is also a signal telling us that we could see a trend reversal in the price of Bitcoin, because generally speaking, if the RSI reverses into a bearish trend, at the very least, that's a sign of weakness for the bullish trend in the price of Bitcoin. And oftentimes, a trend reversal in the RSI can actually be a leading indicator for the price. But if we're taking a look at the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, right now the price of Bitcoin is running into this final area of support for this massive sideways price range, and this area of support is sitting in between around 40,500 to 41k. And so at least as of right now, while the price of Bitcoin is sitting in that area of support, obviously it's still possible we could actually see a final bounce from that area. But like I said earlier, if we start breaking below around 40,500 or 40.3k here on the daily time frame, basically if we start dropping back into the 30k range with candle closes back in that range, then once again that would be a short-term bearish signal. And in that case, the next short-term levels of support that I'll be watching out for is sitting at around 38,000, and below that we have more support at around 36,000 approximately. And as for that short-term bullish divergence here on the 4-hour time frame, just recently we have now invalidated that bullish divergence, because obviously we've just seen a new lower low in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes here on the 4-hour time frame. But as I said over the last few days, once again, I would not be expecting this bullish divergence to play out any longer than the weekend, because like I said, over the last few days, we could see a slight bullish relief or most likely some choppy sideways price action just over the weekend. But when Monday comes around, expect some selling pressure due to the spot Bitcoin ETFs, mainly due to Grayscale. And so that's basically the situation right now in the short term. Thanks to Grayscale, we do have a lot of selling pressure in the market, at least in the short term. But remember, it's important to understand the difference between the different time frames. So even if we're bearish in the short term, we can remain within that much larger bullish trend on the weekly time frame, for example. And if we're zooming into the much shorter term, looking at the 1-hour time frame, obviously, like I said, over the last few days, we did have a very small bullish divergence here on the 1-hour chart, with lower lows in the price and higher lows in the RSI. And once again, as I've been saying over the last few days, since all the way back around here, I expect mostly choppy sideways price action or possibly a slight bullish relief, but only over the weekend. Once again, as soon as Monday comes around, which right now it's Monday, obviously expect selling pressure, which is now what we're seeing as expected. But if you're looking at the 1 hour Bitcoin RSI, we could have a very small bullish divergence right here. As you can see, higher lows in the RSI and lower lows in the price. But it's important to understand that the 1 hour chart is really not that significant compared to larger timeframes. So for example, if we start breaking below this line of support on the daily chart, then obviously a small pattern on the 1 hour timeframe is not really going to mean much. But believe it or not, you can actually make profit no matter what direction the price is going. If we're bullish, you can use long positions, or if we're bearish, you can use short positions to easily profit from the price. And if you're wondering where I take those trades, personally, I trade over on Bybit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bybit account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bitflex account and deposit $100 worth of crypto and to make one trade over on Bitflex, then you can get 10 USDT completely for free. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up or ready to go on one of those exchanges using those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, as we can see, we still actually have a lot of liquidity to the upside, but we now have some new liquidity levels to the downsides. And as you can see, over the last 1 day, the price of Bitcoin obviously took out that lower liquidity level, which was sitting at around 41.2K. And right now we do have some more liquidity right here at around 40.2K. And so basically in the short term, that's attracting the price of Bitcoin towards that level. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily time frame, and right now the bearish divergence is still playing out exactly as expected, because once again, as I've been saying almost every day over the last 1 to 1.5 weeks, I would not be expecting any significant bullish momentum in the short term, and instead it's very likely that we're going to see either choppy sideways price action or a pullback in the price of ETH, which is obviously what we are now seeing. And as I've also said, over the last 2 days, we have now confirmed a bearish cross in the daily Ethereum MACD. So once again, as I've said over the last few days, this means we're about to see more bearish momentum. So we expect some more short-term bearish price action, which once again is now playing out as expected. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, obviously right now the price of ETH is still possibly forming this falling wedge pattern. But right now we're getting extremely close to a break to the downside. Basically, if we break below around 2370, then that essentially invalidates this falling wedge. But obviously right now the falling wedge is not active anyway, because in order to activate the pattern and the bullish price target, we need to first see a confirmed breakout above this resistance, which obviously right now has not happened. And in case you're wondering, this line of resistance right here is sitting at approximately 2450. But what's very interesting about the 4-hour time frame is right now the 4-hour Ethereum RSI is entering into oversold territories, which technically means, at least in the imminent short term here, we have somewhat limited room to the downside. And so basically what that means is we're due to see either a slight bounce or at least some sort of sideways consolidation, basically a bit of a pause from that bearish price action, and that can help to recover the RSI out of those oversold territories, which can actually give us more room to the downside later on. And so once again, in the short term, just on the 4-hour time frame, the price of ETH is still in this bearish trend, forming lower highs and lower lows, as I've been saying for a while now on the channel. And so even if we do see a slight bounce to reset that RSI, once again, we're still in that short-term bearish trend. And as for support and resistance within this descending parallel channel, we have support sitting at around 2370 approximately, and this resistance line is sitting at around 2.5k approximately. And obviously, if you're zooming into the 1-hour time frame, this previous short-term bullish divergence is now over. Obviously, we formed a new lower low in the price and in the RSI, which completely invalidates this short-term bullish divergence. But like I said anyway, over the last couple of days, I did not expect this bullish divergence to play out for very long, considering it's only on the 1-hour time frame, and considering that I'm expecting selling pressure during the weekdays due to the Bitcoin ETFs, which can drag down the overall crypto market. And so overall, we're basically trending in the bearish direction in the short term. We're currently in a correction or pullback here on the daily time frame. But obviously during this short-term bearish trend, we can see small bounces here and there during the bearish trend. For example, right now, we could potentially be in for a little bit of a bounce or sideways consolidation due to the RSI being in oversold territories. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana against the US dollar on the 4-hour time frame, we've just seen another almost perfect bounce from the golden pocket area of support, which is sitting in between around $83.50 to $85.50. And so once again, in the short term, that is still the support to watch out for. But if we break below $83.50, then I would expect a drop down towards around $77. But until then, while the price is still holding above the golden pocket, we're looking relatively neutral. We're basically in a choppy sideways price range in between the golden pocket and this area of resistance, which is sitting closer towards around $108. And so like I've been saying for a while now on the channel, obviously a grid bot strategy can make a lot of easy profits in this choppy sideways price action. But obviously once we eventually leave that sideways price range, whether we're breaking out above that line of resistance or below the golden pocket, at that stage, that would be the point where we could potentially close a grid bot strategy and enter another trade, like a short position to the downside or a long position to the upside, depending on if we're breaking support or resistance. And if you want to know more about all of those trades, those grid bot strategies, long positions and short positions, all of that and more, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can make profit if the price is bullish or bearish using longs and shorts, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action using grid bots. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video.